For centuries, the Xylar Collective had been a shadow sweeping across the stars. They came without mercy, with weapons far beyond anything other civilizations had seen, and a ruthless efficiency that left entire systems silent in their wake. Planets that had once teemed with life were reduced to barren husks, their cities crumbled and their skies empty. Across the galaxies, stories spread no one could stand against the Xylars. Captain Vorek of the Xylar warship Vengeance looked out from his command deck at the star-streaked void. Ahead lay the Andari cluster, a group of systems known for their vibrant cultures and rich resources. They would fall swiftly, as all others had. His fleet, a dark river of warships stretching for thousands of kilometers, was the embodiment of power. There was no question of defeat. The Xylars were invincible. "Prepare for orbital bombardment," Vorek ordered, his voice cold and precise. "We will begin the final sweep by sunrise." Around him, the bridge officers nodded, their faces unreadable behind sleek helmets. The machines hummed, calculating trajectories and damage projections. But then, the communications console blinked. A new message, flagged urgent. "Captain, an unidentified vessel is approaching the Andari cluster." The communications officer said. Vorek raised an eyebrow. "Identify it. Ship design unknown. Signals indicate human origin." Vorek scoffed. Humans, they were a species he had dismissed long ago, minutive, disorganized, and predictable. They had resisted previous encounters, only to be wiped out. Why would a human warship dare enter this battlefront alone? Still, the report unsettled him. The humans had a reputation for stubbornness, but this was something different. A lone warship. It sounded like a challenge. The Dauntless was unlike any other human vessel the Xylars had seen. Small and sleek, it moved with surprising agility through space, defying the expectations of an underpowered craft. Its dark gray hull absorbed the faint light of distant stars, making it difficult to track. Inside, Commander Alina Reyes stood on the bridge, her gaze steady and determined. "Alina?" Sensors showed the Xylar fleet massing near the Andari cluster, reported Lieutenant Chen, her tactical officer. "We're outnumbered by at least 1,000 to 1. Reyes gave a small smile. "That's why they haven't faced us yet." The Dauntless had a reputation among humans as a symbol of resilience. Built on the backbone of Earth's most advanced technology and piloted by a crew that trusted each other implicitly. It represented a new kind of warfare, one where bravery and quick thinking were as powerful as any weapon. "Keep us off their scanners," Reyes ordered. "We'll give them a surprise they won't forget." Back on the Vengeance, Vorek's scanners began to pick up faint disturbances. The Xylars, used to dominating encounters with overwhelming firepower, found themselves tracking a ghost ship that slipped in and out of detection. The Dauntless danced between the shadow of asteroids and the glow of dying stars. Moving fast and striking with precision, the Xylar fleet opened fire. Beams of searing energy cutting through space, but the human ship evaded every blast. The crew worked with fluid precision pilots, engineers, weapons officers, well perfectly synchronized. It was not brute strength, but skill that made the Dauntless dangerous. "We're hitting their formations," Chen reported, eyes flicking over her console. "Their ships are breaking ranks." Commander Reyes leaned forward, her voice calm but firm. "Good. Keep the pressure on." The Xylars had never met an enemy like this before. For all their power and technology, they were unprepared for a force that refused to surrender. A crew that fought with a mixture of fierce determination and clever tactics. The Dauntless was more than a ship, it was a symbol of resistance. Across the galaxies, whispers began to spread. A human warship had stood its ground against the Xylar Collective. It had not been destroyed. It had fought back. On a devastated planet in the Andari cluster, Survivors watched the distant flashes of battle on their battered screens. For the first time in years, hope stirred in their hearts. Maybe, just maybe, the tide was beginning to turn. The Dauntless was a study in contrasts. To the untrained eye, it looked modest smaller than most warships in the sector. Its gray hull sleek but unassuming. Yet inside, the ship was a hive of controlled energy, every corridor buzzing with purpose. The human crew moved with practiced efficiency, their faces focused but never tense. They had trained for moments like this. Commander Alina Reyes stood on the bridge, her hands resting lightly on the console before her. She was in her early 40s, with sharp eyes that missed nothing and a calmness that settled the entire crew. To her, this was more than just a mission. It was a stand of refusal to watch the galaxy fall under shadow without a fight. "Commander, we are approaching the coordinates near the outer edge of the Andari cluster," reported Lieutenant Chen. Her tactical officer, a young woman with a quick mind and steady nerves. "Sensors detect no immediate threats, but the Xylar fleet remains on high alert." "Good," Reyes replied. "That means they don't expect us here. Let's keep it that way." Around her, crew members prepared for what might be the most important engagement in their lives. Weapons officers double-checked targeting systems. Engineers ran diagnostics on the ship's engines and shields. Pilots ran simulations of evasive maneuvers and attack patterns. Every detail mattered. Outside the viewport, the stars stretched in endless blackness, a canvas of potential and danger. The Dauntless was alone in this vast space, but it carried with it the hopes of many worlds. "Commander, Chief Engineer." Malik approached, his voice low but urgent. "I've completed the modifications to our propulsion system. We can execute short bursts of speed that exceed standard limits, but it will strain the engines." "Do it," Rhea said, without hesitation. "If it gives us an edge, it's worth the risk." Malik nodded and went to his station, fingers flying across controls. The ship shuddered slightly as power rerouted, then settled into a new rhythm, faster, sharper, ready to dart through enemy lines. Captain Lieutenant Chen's voice cut through the bridge chatter. "We're picking up faint transmissions from nearby colonies. They're fragmented, but they're calling for help. The Xylars are closing in." Elena's jaw tightened. "We're not here just to fight. We're here to give those colonies a chance." She turned to the communications officer. "Send out a secure message to the Allied worlds. The Dauntless is here. Resistance is possible. Prepare to stand with us." A murmur of approval rippled through the bridge. Even the youngest crew members felt the weight of their task. This was not just a battle between ships, it was a fight for survival in a remote system beyond the Dauntless. Survivors of the first Xylar attack huddled around their makeshift terminals. Messages from the human ship were met with a mixture of hope and disbelief. Many had never seen a human ship in person, only heard stories passed down through generations. Among them was Kira Tal, a young engineer who had lost her home planet in the initial invasion. Her eyes shone as she watched the message from the Dauntless flicker across her screen. "They're here," she whispered. "They're fighting back." Back aboard the Dauntless, Commander Reyes reviewed battle strategies with her senior officers. The Xylars were relentless, but humans had one advantage: they did not expect creativity under pressure. Where the Xylars relied on overwhelming force and rigid tactics, humans adapted quickly, inventing solutions in the heat of combat. "Prepare for the first strike," Reyes said firmly. "We will hit their supply convoy near the orbit of Epsilon 6. It's a risk, but if we can disrupt their logistics, it will slow their advance." Lieutenant Chen's fingers danced over the controls. "Weapon systems are online. Stealth mode engaged. We'll be ghosts." As the Dauntless slipped through space toward its target, the crew felt a shared sense of purpose. They were small against a massive enemy, but they carried the spirit of humanity itself, spirit that refused to bow down. Suddenly, alarms blared through the ship. "Incoming Xylar fighters!" shouted the tactical officer. "Evasive maneuvers!" Reyes commanded, voice steady. The Dauntless darted through a maze of asteroids and debris. The enemy fighters closing in fast. The crew worked as one, coordinating defense and counterattack. Laser beams sliced through space, explosions flaring in the distance. The battle was fierce, but brief. The human ship's agility and tactical planning allowed it to slip through. The enemy lines striking the convoy with pinpoint accuracy. Supply ships were disabled, and the Xylar advance faltered. "Status report," Reyes called. "Damage minimal," Chen replied. "Supplies destroyed. Xylar fleet regrouping." The bridge erupted in quiet cheers. Commander Reyes looked out at the stars once more. This was just the beginning, but already the tide was shifting. The galaxy had found a new defender, and humanity was ready to stand tall. The darkness of space stretched endlessly before the Dauntless, but this time the void was alive with danger. After their successful strike on the Xylar supply convoy, the crew knew it was only a matter of time before the invaders responded in force. Commander Elena Reyes stood at the center of the bridge, calm but alert. Her eyes scanned the holographic display floating above the console, tracking enemy movements. The Xylar warships, massive and deadly, were converging on their location with terrifying speed. "Enemy fleet incoming," Lieutenant Chen reported. Estimated fleet strength, 2,000 vessels. A collective hush fell over the bridge. The number alone could crush most defenders without a second thought. 2,000 against 1. Muttered Tactical Officer Jenkins, a veteran pilot with a steady hand. "The odds don't look good." Reyes met his gaze with unwavering confidence. "We don't have to win by numbers. We win by being smarter and faster." The Dauntless was nimble, equipped with propulsion systems enhanced beyond any standard design. Its speed and agility were its greatest weapons, but the Xylars were relentless. Their ships bristling with powerful weapons designed to annihilate any opposition. "Bring us to Tactical Formation Delta," Reyes ordered. "Prepare for engagement." The crew snapped into action. Pilots took their stations in the fighter bays, ready to launch into the swirling battlefield ahead. Engineers calibrated shields and weapon systems, fine-tuning every detail. Every breath was a countdown to war. As the Xylar fleet emerged from hyperspace, their enormous warships formed a dark wall against the stars. The Dauntless looked small and fragile beside them, lone spark against a storm. Suddenly, energy beams erupted from the Xylar ships, scorching the blackness. The Dauntless shuddered but held steady, weaving between blasts with practiced precision. "Enemy fire approaching port side," Chen warned. "Evasive maneuvers now." The ship veered sharply, slipping behind an asteroid field. The Xylar fleet hesitated, unwilling to risk collisions. "Good," Reyes said. "Use the environment to our advantage. We'll draw them in." From the fighter bays, human pilots launched small attack crafts, darting in and out of enemy lines. Their mission, disrupt and confuse. They zipped through the gaps, targeting weapons arrays and communication relays. "Fighter Squadron Alpha moving in," Jenkins called. Engaging enemy scouts. The battle was a blur of movement and sound. Lasers screamed through space, missiles streaked past, and explosions lit up the void. For every Xylar ship destroyed, 2 more took its place, but the humans refused to back down. On the bridge, Reyes tracked the unfolding chaos, her mind racing with strategy. The Xylars fought predictably, relying on brute force and rigid command chains. But humans thrived on unpredictability. "Deploy countermeasures," she ordered. "Jammer pods to disrupt their targeting systems." Small drones burst from the Dauntless, weaving through enemy fire and emitting pulses that scrambled Xylar sensors. Suddenly, enemy beams faltered. their attacks wild and ineffective. The human crew seized the moment. Targeting systems locked onto a Xylar cruiser, and a volley of plasma bolts tore through its shields. The cruiser exploded in a brilliant cascade of light and debris. Direct hit. Chen exclaimed. Across the galaxy, this single victory was a shock. The Xylars had never before faced such resistance, especially from a lone human warship. Their arrogance was shaken. Enemy formation breaking apart, Jenkins reported. They're retreating. But Reyes knew better than to celebrate too soon. The Xylars were tactical creatures, and their retreat was only temporary. We've shown them we can fight, she said quietly. Now we make them fear us. As the Dauntless pursued the retreating fleet, a message crackled over the comms. It was a transmission from a nearby colony, barely audible through static. Thank you, Dauntless. You gave us hope. And time. Alina felt a surge of determination. This was why they fought not for glory, but for the countless lives hanging in the balance. The battle was far from over. But for the first time, humanity was no longer just a target. They were a force. The Dauntless floated in the quiet depths of space. Far from the echoes of battle, but close to a new challenge. The victory against the Xylar fleet had been significant, but Commander Alina Reyes knew that brute force alone wouldn't win this war. To truly turn the tide, they needed to understand their enemy, how they communicated, coordinated, and commanded such devastating power. Lieutenant Chen, what do we have on Xylar communications? Reyes asked, moving toward the tactical station. Chen's fingers flew across her console, pulling up data streams intercepted during the last skirmish. Their systems are advanced encrypted with algorithms we've never encountered before. But I've managed to isolate some repeating patterns in their signals. It's not just noise, their structure. Alina nodded thoughtfully. Any way to crack it will take time, but we have an advantage, Chen said. They rely heavily on centralized command. We can disrupt or confuse their communications. We can create chaos in their ranks. Make it your priority, Reyes said firmly. I want continuous updates. Elsewhere on the ship, the engineers and analysts worked in shifts, poring over data captured during the fight. The Xylar's technology was impressive far beyond anything the Dauntless possessed. But humans had something else: creativity, intuition, and a willingness to experiment. Chief Engineer Malik gathered his team in the engineering bay. This is where we turn the tide, he told them. If we can hack their networks, or at least jam their signals without exposing ourselves, we can give our allies a fighting chance. The engineers nodded, already brainstorming new ideas. Modifications to existing systems, and possible surprises for their enemy. Back on the bridge, Reyes reviewed the latest intelligence. The Xylar fleet had paused, likely to regroup after their unexpected defeat. But the Dauntless was not idle. Every move was calculated, every scan analyzed. Suddenly, Chen's voice cut through the hum of the ship. Commander, I'm picking up an unusual spike in Xylar transmissions. Looks like a shift in their communication protocols. Details, Reyes asked. They're switching frequencies rapidly, trying to avoid detection or interference. But their new pattern repeats at intervals we can predict. Alina smiled. Good, use that. Set our jammers to pulse at those intervals. Let's give them a headache they won't forget. The tactical team implemented the new jamming pattern. Moments later, the Xylar fleet's coordination faltered. Ships that had been steady and precise suddenly fired at empty space or collided with debris. Their once unstoppable advance slowed to a crawl. On the Dauntless, the crew cheered quietly. This was the first real crack in the Xylar armor. Commander Chen reported, I've intercepted partial data from their command network. There's a possibility to send false orders back into their system. We could turn their own fleet against them. Elena's eyes gleamed. Do it, but carefully. We don't want them to realize what's happening. As the crew worked feverishly, the Dauntless moved deeper into contested space. Other species, long victims of the Xylar onslaught, watched and waited. The humans' unexpected success sparked hope and, more importantly, action. One by one, small groups of survivors and resistance fighters began coordinating their efforts. Supply lines were rerouted, escape routes opened, and ambushes planned. The message was clear. The Xylars were not invincible in the crowded mess hall. Kira Tal, the young engineer from the Andari cluster, listened to a transmission from the Dauntless. Her hands trembled as she adjusted her equipment. "They're doing it," she whispered. "They're breaking their control." Across the galaxy, scattered pockets of rebellion were lighting fires in the dark. The Xylar, for all their power, had underestimated one thing: the unpredictability of the human spirit. On the bridge of the Dauntless, Commander Reyes allowed herself a brief moment of satisfaction. But she knew this was only the beginning. "Keep pushing," she said quietly. "We're going to crack this code and then we'll show them what humanity can do." The galaxy was vast, dotted with countless worlds and countless stories, many of them tragic. The Xylar Collective had left a trail of destruction wherever they passed, but amidst the ruins, hope was slowly taking root. The Dauntless was no longer alone in its fight. Commander Elena Reyes knew that to stand against the relentless invaders, humanity needed allies. "Commander, we're receiving multiple distress calls from the Vraxan system," Lieutenant Chen said as the ships. Sensors picked up a flurry of transmissions. "The Xylars are advancing quickly. If we don't act, the colonies there won't last." Elena's eyes narrowed. "Then we'll move quickly. Prepare a diplomatic signal. We're going to reach out to the Vraxan leaders." Reyes understood. That battle was not only fought with weapons, was also fought in council chambers and across communication lines. The oppressed races of the galaxy held grudges and fears, often wary of outsiders. Many had suffered at human hands in the past, or simply distrusted anyone new. Gaining their trust would be a challenge. "Begin preparations for the summit," Reyes ordered. "I want representatives from every species willing to resist the Xylars. This is the time to unite." The Dauntless adjusted course toward the Vraxan system, a cluster of planets once thriving with trade and culture. Now, their cities bore scars of war and desperation. But as the ship approached, it was greeted by a flicker of cautious signals from the Vraxan Council, a sign that the offer of alliance was being considered. When the Dauntless docked at the Vraxan capital, Commander Reyes and a small delegation were met with wary eyes and tight-lipped greetings. The Vraxans were a proud species. Their tall figures draped in intricate armor and their voices deep with suspicion. Counselor Therix, the leader of the Vraxan Council, spoke first. "Humans have been distant observers until now. Why should we trust you? You are not our saviors." Reyes met his gaze steadily. "Because the Xylars threaten us all. No single species can stand alone. We have technology, strategy, and most of all, the will to fight. But we need each other. Together, we can push back." For hours, the council debated. Old wounds and rivalries surfaced, but so did a growing realization. The Xylars were a threat none could ignore. Slowly, allies emerge, small fleets ready to coordinate, scientists eager to share knowledge, and warriors willing to stand shoulder to shoulder. Back aboard the Dauntless, Alina worked with the new alliance's leaders, blending their diverse technologies and tactics. The Vraxans brought powerful energy weapons. The Andari offered advanced stealth technology. Others contributed unique defenses and specialized fighters. It was a patchwork force, but one united by necessity. "Integration is key," Alina said. "During a strategy session, we'll have to turn differences into strengths. No more fractured resistance." Lieutenant Chen smiled. "To start, we're seeing ships from half a dozen species training together now. That's something the Xylers never anticipated. Outside the Dauntless, fleets once scattered were becoming an armada. Plans formed for coordinated strikes against Xyler. Outposts and supply lines. The small victories against the invaders had sparked a wildfire of rebellion. One evening, as the Dauntless orbited a starbase on the edge of Allied territory, Alina stood looking out at the stars. Kiratal's message from the Andari cluster had arrived again, this time with a plea for more support. "We have to move faster," Alina said quietly. "If we delay, more worlds will fall." Chief Engineer Malik approached. "Our engines are ready for the long jump. If we can reach the Andari system by morning." Alina nodded. "Then, we don't wait. Prepare the crew. Tomorrow, we show the galaxy that humanity doesn't fight alone." That night, the Dauntless hummed with energy, a beacon of hope, leadership, and unity. From isolated resistance to a growing alliance, the fight against the Xyler Collective was evolving, no longer just a single warship in the void. The Dauntless was the spark lighting a fire across the stars. Together with allies, humanity was ready to change the course of history. The stars streaked past the Dauntless as it made the jump to the Andari system, the engines humming with steady power. Inside the bridge, Commander Elena Reyes kept a steady gaze on the approaching coordinates. The alliance had grown stronger, but with every victory came the risk of overreach. The Xyler Collective was cunning, and Alina knew they would not let this challenge go unanswered. "Sensors are picking up unusual activity ahead," Lieutenant Chen said, her fingers dancing over the console. Multiple unidentified signatures near the Andari system's outer perimeter. Lena's brow furrowed. Unidentified. Small craft, moving fast, but cloaked. Could be scouts or traps. The crew tensed. After months of hard-fought battles and fragile alliances, the Dauntless had learned that the Xylers were masters of deception. "Keep us on high alert," Alina ordered. "Prepare all systems. If this is a trap, we'll be ready." The ships. Lights dimmed slightly as power redirected to shields and weapons. Pilots checked their stations, weapons officers ran diagnostics, and engineers monitored every system for anomalies. "Commander," came a call from Tactical Officer Jenkins. "We're picking up a message on a scrambled frequency. It's faint, but it's definitely Xyler." Alina signaled for the transmission to be cleared and brought to the bridge speakers. A distorted, mechanical voice filled the room, cold and menacing. "Human ship Dauntless. You and your allies meddle in forces beyond your understanding. Turn back now or be destroyed." The message cut off abruptly. Alina exchanged a look with Chen. "They want us to know they're hearing, that they're watching. Maybe even baiting us," Chen added. Alina's lips pressed into a thin line. "We don't run from threats. Ready the fighters. We're going in, but cautiously." As the Dauntless neared the system, sensors suddenly flared with activity. Out of the void emerged a fleet, not thousands of ships this time, but a concentrated force of Xyler warships, their weapons primed and deadly. "Ambush," Jenkins shouted. "They've been waiting for us." The Dauntless twisted and turned through a hailstorm of energy blasts. Shields strained under the assault. Human fighters launched from the bays, weaving through enemy fire with skill and determination. Elena's voice remained calm but resolute. "Target their command ship. Disrupt their coordination." The battle was brutal and fast. The Xyler warships fought with deadly precision, but the humans and their allies responded with unmatched tactics and innovation. The Dauntless darted between explosions, its weapons striking true. Suddenly, an explosion rocked the bridge. Power flickered, damage to the port engine. Malik reported urgently. "We're losing speed. Can we stabilize?" Alina demanded. "We're working on it," Malik said, sweat beading on his brow. The Dauntless's agility was its lifeline. But now it was faltering. "Enemy fighters incoming," Jenkins warned. "They're trying to board us. Seal all bulkheads. Activate defense protocols," Alina ordered. The crew braced for close-quarters combat as automated turrets sprang to life, firing at the incoming Xylar boarding pods. Explosions echoed through the hull as the invaders attempted to breach. Meanwhile, the Allied fighters pressed the attack, drawing fire away from the Dauntless. Vraxan energy blasts and Undari stealth strikes combined in a deadly ballet of resistance. Alina took a deep breath and made a decision. Deploy the jamming drones. We'll disrupt their comms again, force them into chaos. Chen launched the swarm. Tiny drones scattered like fireflies, emitting pulses that interfered with enemy signals. The Xylar fleet faltered, weapons firing blindly. "Now's our chance," Alina said. "All hands, focus fire on the lead warship." The combined assault overwhelmed the enemy flagship. It exploded in a cascade of light, sending shockwaves through the Xylar formation. The remaining ships faltered, retreating into the darkness. As silence returned, Alina surveyed the damage. The Dauntless was battered, but intact. This was their trap, she said quietly, and we walked right into it. But we survived. Lieutenant Chen nodded, her eyes sharp. "They'll be back." Elena's gaze hardened. "Then we'll be ready. Because this fight isn't just about survival anymore. It's about sending a message humanity and its allies will not be broken." The Dauntless drifted in the aftermath of the ambush, its hull scarred and battered, but its spirit unbroken. Commander Alina Reyes stood on the bridge, eyes locked on the swirling stars beyond the viewport. The trap had been deadly, but it had not broken them. Instead, it had forged something stronger, a shared resolve. "Status report," Reyes said, her voice steady. Chief Engineer Malik was at his station, fingers flying over the controls. "Damage to the port engine has been stabilized, but full repairs will take time. Shields are operational, though weakened. Weapon systems are fully functional." "Good, Lieutenant Chen." "Enemy communications remain disrupted. Their fleet is in retreat, but I'm detecting increased activity in multiple systems. They're regrouping, likely preparing for a larger offensive." Alina nodded. "Then we don't wait for them to come to us." She turned to the comms officer. "Send a message to all Allied forces. Tell them the Dauntless survived the trap. Tell them the fight is far from over, and that together we will rise." The response was swift. Fleets from the Vraxan, the Endari, and other Allied worlds began coordinating. Resistance cells across occupied territories received hope in the form of messages and supplies. The tide of rebellion was rising. In the Endari cluster, Kiritao watched the transmissions from the Dauntless. Her eyes shone with determination as she mobilized local engineers and fighters. "This is our moment," she told them. "We'll fight for every world, every life." Back aboard the Dauntless, Reyes convened a council of Alliance leaders. The meeting was tense, but charged with purpose. Old grudges were set aside as plans for a counteroffensive took shape. "We cannot win this war with hit-and-run tactics alone," Reyes said firmly. "The Xylars have resources in numbers, but they do not have unity." Counselor Therix of the Vraxans leaned forward. "We have ships and warriors willing to fight at your side. But we need better coordination and a strategy that uses our combined strengths." The Endari envoy added, "Our stealth technology can infiltrate enemy strongholds. But we need support for sabotage and rescue missions." Together, they crafted a plan that blended offense, defense, and intelligence. The Dauntless would lead the charge, coordinating strikes to weaken the Xylar's hold on key systems. Meanwhile, resistance cells would disrupt supply lines and gather vital information as the Alliance prepared. Alina found herself reflecting on the journey so far. Humanity had been underestimated, seen as a minor player in a galaxy ruled by ancient powers. But through ingenuity, courage, and an unyielding spirit, they had become a beacon. "Commander," Chen said softly, "the crew is ready. They believe." In this cause, Alina smiled. "So do I. This is more than survival. It's a chance to reclaim our future." The Dauntless powered up its engines, ready to jump into the next battle. The stars awaited, vast and full of unknowns. But now they held promise as the ship slipped into hyperspace. A message crackled through the Kumzan encrypted transmission from deep within Xylar territory. It was a warning, clear and chilling. The Xylars had not forgotten humanity's defiance, but Alina was undeterred. The war was far from over, and the galaxy had learned something new, that when humans and their allies stood together, they could face even the darkest threats. The Dauntless surged forward, carrying the hope of countless worlds. The resistance was rising, and this time, the invaders would find the fight far fiercer than before. The Dauntless emerged from hyperspace near the heart of the Xylar Collective's territory, a cluster of star systems once thought untouchable. The galaxy's darkest corners now felt the stirrings of rebellion, and Alina Reyes knew this was the moment to strike decisively. "Scanners are picking up heavy fleet concentrations ahead," Lieutenant Chen reported. "They're expecting us." "Of course they are," Reyes replied, her voice calm but fierce. "We've become a symbol. But we're not here to be hunted. We're here to end the hunt." The alliance had grown stronger and more coordinated than ever. Fleets from dozens of species, armed with combined technologies and shared strategies, had prepared a bold assault on the Xylar's central command hub. The Dauntless would lead the vanguard. As the armada advanced, the void ignited with bursts of energy. The Xylar fleet roared to meet them, their ships bristling with weapons and shields glowing with lethal intensity. "Engage at will," Alina commanded. The battle exploded in a symphony of fire and steel. Energy beams lanced through the darkness, missiles streaked toward targets, and starships danced between destruction and survival. The Dauntless weaved through enemy fire, its crews pushing every system to the limit. "Commander, we've identified the command nexus," Chen said. "If we disable it, their fleet's coordination will collapse." Alina nodded. "Target it. Full salvo." The Allied ships concentrated firepower on the Nexus station, a massive, fortress-like structure pulsing with energy. The Xylars fought fiercely to defend it, but the combined assault was relentless. Inside the command hub, alarms blared as systems failed. Communication lines fell silent one by one, and the Xylar fleet began to falter. "Now's our chance," Alina said. "Prepare boarding parties." Specialized teams launched from the Dauntless, infiltrating the station with stealth and precision. Their mission was to seize control and disrupt the enemy from within. On board the station, chaos reigned. The boarding teams moved swiftly, disabling defenses and securing critical systems. Alina's forces hacked into the command core, severing links and feeding false data. Command Nexus compromised, came the message from team leader Ramirez. "We have control." The effect was immediate. The Xylar warships, now blind and directionless, turned on each other in confusion. Their fleets shattered, retreating in disarray. The victory was monumental. News of the success spread quickly, igniting uprisings on occupied worlds. The alliance had broken the invaders' grip and shown that even the mightiest foes could be defeated. Back on the Dauntless, Alina allowed herself a rare moment of reflection. The war had been long and brutal, but the human spirit fierce. Adaptable, united, had prevailed. "We've done more than survive," she said softly to Chen. "We've changed the course of the galaxy." Chen smiled. "And we'll keep fighting until freedom is won for all." As the Allied fleets regrouped and repaired, The Dauntless set its sights on the horizon, ready for whatever came next. The galaxy was far from perfect, scarred by conflict and loss, but it was alive with possibility. Together, humanity and its allies had turned the tide. The era of Xylar domination was over. A new chapter was beginning, one written by those who dared to stand, fight, and hope. The stars stretched endlessly ahead, full of light, promise, and the unbreakable will to survive.